you might want to put on your headphones for this one. Seriously. Close your eyes, lean back, maybe turn off the lights if you're brave enough. Just don't listen to this alone if you live in an apartment, especially a high-rise. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another scary story. This one really happened, right here in India. And once you hear it, I swear, every creak, every knock, every flicker in your building is going to feel different. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so this happened to a woman named Roshni. Early 30s, lived in Bangalore. She was a freelance graphic designer, mostly worked from home, kind of a loner, not much family around, except for her younger brother who lived across the city. The apartment she moved into was on the 10th floor of this older building in Koramangala. Not the fancy glassy types, just one of those 90s era ones with flickering tube lights in the hallway and that weird, slightly moldy smell in the lift. But she liked it. It was quiet, affordable, and the view from the balcony, absolutely killer. You could see the entire city skyline, especially at night. Just lights stretching out like stars. Anyway, the first couple of weeks were normal, nothing crazy. Just the usual moving in hassles, noisy neighbors upstairs, leaky pipe, all that stuff. But then, things started getting weird. It began small. You know how sometimes you leave a glass on the kitchen counter and then find it in the sink? You blame yourself, right? Maybe I moved it and forgot, that kind of thing. But Roshni was starting to feel like her mind was playing tricks on her. One night, around 2 a.m., she was working on a project, totally zoned in, headphones on. Suddenly, she felt this drop in temperature, like a cold breath on her neck. You know how you just know someone's behind you? That spine-tingling kind of instinct? She spun around. No one. She laughed it off, checked the windows, they were shut, blamed the AC draft, and got back to work. But then it happened again, 2 nights later. This time, she was lying in bed, scrolling through Instagram, when she heard what she thought was the sound of whispering inside her bedroom. Not outside, not from the walls. It felt close, like someone was leaning in and talking just under their breath. She jumped out of bed, turned on all the lights, checked every corner. Nothing. Dead silent. Still, she didn't want to sound crazy, so she didn't tell anyone, not even her brother. She just chalked it up to sleep deprivation or maybe her imagination messing with her. But then one night, something happened that she couldn't ignore. It was around 3:15 in the morning. She woke up to the sound of her doorbell ringing. Ding dong. Once, then again, and again. She got up, totally disoriented. Who the hell rings a bell at 3 a.m.? She peeked through the peephole. Nobody. She stood there for a few seconds. Still nothing. She opened the door just a crack, you know the way we all do, chains still on, and looked out into the dimly lit hallway. Empty. Not a single soul. Just that awful buzzing from the tube light above and the hum of the elevator. Now here's where it gets really creepy. Just as she was about to shut the door, she noticed something. Right there, on the doormat, a small plastic bag. She hesitated, looked around again, picked it up, and brought it inside. Inside the bag was a used baby's pacifier. Yeah, a pacifier. Dirty, like it had been buried somewhere and dug up. She didn't know what to do with it. She wrapped it in tissue, tossed it in the bin, and tried to sleep. But the whole night, her apartment felt wrong, off, like something wasn't alone anymore. And that was just the beginning. After that night with the pacifier, Roshni couldn't sleep properly. You know when your body's in bed, but your mind's wide awake? Alert to every little sound? That's where she was, constantly listening, waiting for something to happen. And it did. The next few nights, she kept hearing sounds. Not from the neighbors, not from outside, from inside the apartment. Footsteps in the hall when no one was walking. The sound of something dragging, slow and low, like nails across the floor. Once, while brushing her teeth late at night, she swore she saw someone pass behind her in the mirror. Just a flicker, a blur. But when she turned around, the bathroom was empty. Still, she told herself she was being paranoid. Maybe the stress of freelancing, maybe caffeine. But deep down, she knew something was off. She finally called her brother, Ankit, and told him what was going on. Not everything, just the creepy stuff. He laughed it off at first, said she was watching too many horror movies. But when she mentioned the pacifier, his tone changed. He offered to come over and stay a few nights. She agreed. She just didn't want to be alone anymore. The first night he stayed, everything was calm, quiet. Almost too quiet. Roshni even joked, "See, maybe I was going crazy." But around 2:40 a.m., she woke up to Ankit screaming. She ran to the guest room, heart pounding, and found him sitting up in bed, drenched in sweat, shaking. He said, and this is word for word, "There was a kid, a baby, crawling on the floor. But its eyes, it didn't have eyes, Roshni. It had no fucking eyes." She froze. They didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, Ankit didn't make jokes. He didn't tease her. He just said one thing. "You need to leave this place." But Roshni, she couldn't. It was all she could afford. So, she decided to do something else. She started asking questions. She went downstairs to the building security guy, this older man who'd been working there for years. At first, he was hesitant, kept saying, "There's nothing wrong, ma'am. Everything's fine." But when she pressed him, when she really asked, his whole demeanor changed. He said her apartment had been empty for years before she moved in, not because it was expensive, but because people kept complaining about activity, things moving, strange dreams. One couple reported hearing crying every night from inside their walls. Then he said something that chilled her to the core. A woman used to live in that flat a long time ago. Her baby, he fell off the balcony. A mother lived there. Years ago, her baby had fallen off the balcony, died instantly. And here's the worst part. The woman didn't move out. She kept living there, with the baby's toys, with his clothes still folded, talking to him like he was still alive, for months. Until one day, she just disappeared. No one knows if she moved away or if something else happened. The apartment stayed locked for almost 7 years after that. until Roshni rented it. She tried to laugh it off, but every instinct told her this was real. That there was something still there, not just a presence, but a grief so strong it never left. That night, she decided she was done. She called a moving truck for the weekend, told Ankit she was staying at his place until then. But the apartment, it didn't want her to leave. That final night, when she was packing up her things alone, it all came to a head. She had just finished sealing a box of books when the lights went out. Not a power cut. Her building had backup. But her apartment alone went completely dark. Every light, every switch, gone. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the blackness, shaky in her hands. She whispered, Okay, it's just a fuse," and moved toward the circuit box. But then, she heard it. A baby crying. From inside the walls. She froze. Her throat went dry. The crying got louder and closer. She turned to run toward the door, but something was blocking it. Not someone, something. A shadow. Tall, stretched out like smoke, standing completely still in front of the main door. No eyes, no face, just a dark form, holding something. She raised her flashlight. It was holding the same dirty pacifier. The light flickered and then died. The moment her flashlight went out, Roshni stood frozen in pitch-black silence. Her heart was pounding so loud she could barely hear anything else, except the crying. That awful, echoing baby cry. It wasn't soft anymore. It was louder now, distorted, like it was coming from a broken speaker. And it wasn't just one voice. It was layered, like multiple cries at once, some high-pitched, some unnaturally deep, like an adult mimicking a baby. She couldn't scream, couldn't move. She felt her body lock up, like her mind knew what to do, run, scream, fight, but her body refused. She was stuck. And then she felt it. A hand. No, not a full hand, just fingers, cold, thin and damp, wrapping around her ankle from below. She looked down and saw nothing, but she felt it curling tighter and tighter, like something was trying to pull her down into the floor itself. The wood beneath her feet started to feel soft, wet, like she was sinking. That's when instinct kicked in. She screamed, not a sharp scream, but one of those panicked, guttural gasps that rip out of your chest. She kicked at whatever was grabbing her, scrambled across the floor, and somehow made it to the door. Her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't even grip the latch. She just kept fumbling at it until finally it clicked open. The hallway outside was lit, silent, empty. She didn't wait, she ran, barefoot, breathless, shaking like hell. Banged on the lift button again and again until the doors opened. Got in, slammed the G floor button like her life depended on it. And just as the lift doors were closing, she looked up. Her apartment door was still open, and someone was standing in the doorway. Not moving, not breathing, just standing. It was a woman. Pale, head tilted to one side, hair matted to her face like she'd just stepped out of water. And she was holding a baby. But the baby wasn't alive. Its neck hung limp, its face swollen, purple, like it had drowned. And in that final second before the lift doors closed, Roshni locked eyes with the woman, and the woman smiled. Not a sad smile, not angry, but relieved, like she finally wasn't alone anymore. When Roshni got to the ground floor, the security guard saw her and nearly had a heart attack. She was drenched in sweat, covered in dirt, limping, mumbling nonsense. He tried to calm her down, but she just kept saying the same thing over and over. She has the baby. She has the baby. She has the baby. She never went back. Her brother returned the next day with movers. Roshni refused to go near the apartment. When Ankit went in, he said the place was a wreck. Boxes torn open, her clothes scattered. But the weirdest thing? In the middle of the living room, sitting perfectly upright, was a child's toy, a small stuffed elephant. Roshni never owned one. She moved in with her brother after that, went to therapy, got spiritual help, changed jobs, but she never lived alone again. And she never, ever stayed above the 3rd floor in any building. Just the sound of a baby crying from another apartment would make her blood run cold. Now, here's where it gets even darker, because you might be thinking, okay, just a ghost story, right? Well, Ankit tried to do some digging after what happened, just to confirm the security guard's story. And he did find something. Back in 2002, a woman named Mira lost her 8-month-old son after he crawled out onto the balcony while she was cooking. The railing was loose. He fell, died on impact. The building association offered to help. Friends offered to stay, but she refused. Locked herself in that apartment for nearly 6 months. Then, nothing. One day, the door was found wide open. Her shoes were by the door, her purse, everything untouched. But she was gone, never seen again. No note, not a report, not a single clue. And here's the kicker. Her name was Mira Roshni Sharma. Yeah. Roshni, the woman who moved in years later, that was her full name too. Same surname, same building, same floor. Coincidence? Maybe. But you can't make this stuff up. So, next time you hear a baby crying in the middle of the night, when there's no baby in your building, when you're 10 floors up and all alone, maybe don't go looking. Because some cries aren't calling for help. They're calling for company. And yeah, that was it. Roshni never went back. That apartment still exists, by the way. Still rented out every now and then. But if you ever find yourself in a high-rise and you hear a baby crying late at night when there shouldn't be one, maybe don't open the door. Just don't. Anyway, if the story gave you chills or made you check behind your curtain, maybe consider subscribing. I've got more stories like this coming. Real ones, worse ones. And I'd hate for you to miss the next nightmare. This is the Horror Guy, and I'll see you in the dark.